Hello everyone, and welcome to my first ever attempt at recording a Zwift ride. This is actually the stage 5 of the Zwift Games on the Three Stepsisters course, so lots and lots of climbing. As you can see in the upper right, I'm racing in the 210 to 330 racing score range, so pretty low range compared to probably most of the videos you'll see. So if you're looking for a hammerfest, that's not going to be this. This is going to be pretty chill. And in fact, as we start off here, this has got to be the most chill start I think I've ever experienced. Usually, even in the low ranges, people are hammering pretty hard, and it's a challenge to stay with the group. But this is super relaxed. Obviously, there's a lot of climbing coming up here, and it's a small field, but I was really surprised that it was this chill going into this start. Like I said, I'm in the 210 to 330 range. I'm actually close to the top of that range, so I actually picked this race with only 25 riders in it, and I'm kind of hoping to do well in this race because I am up toward the top of the range and should let me do well. So my plan is just to absolutely do no work. I don't really have a lot of power. I can't pull the pack, and I need to save everything I can for the climbs. So my overall strategy, which is like a lot of people, is to sit in and stay out of the wind. And as you'll see here, that's exactly what I'll do. The power-ups that are firing here, now power-ups in the Zwift Games are kind of a weird thing because in the previous 4 stages, you only got one power-up, one power-up at the beginning of the race, and you had to pick the one place you were going to use it. On this stage, I guess since there's so much climbing, they give you a feather for each of the 3 climbs, and also they give you a feather for every arch on the grade, the final climb. Still, it's weird to see people popping feathers on tiny little 2% grades at the start of the race. So, now they can't use that for the first climb, and it's always surprising to see people popping feathers. I guess maybe sometimes they goof and do it. But and again, at this level, maybe there's a lot of beginners. One thing that was kind of surprising is my heart rate at this point. Early on, and doing 2.2 watts per kilo, I was not expecting my heart rate to be up in the high 150s. So I was a little concerned about that. It actually was fine. It didn't. It went back to normal basically as I got going, but I was still kind of concerned about that. It's kind of weird. As you can see, I'm still just sort of staying at the back of the pack and chilling at the end of this thing. But you'll see here, I kind of realize that the pack is getting a little bit strung out. I'm taking a little bit too easy, and so I figure I better get back up to the front. There's always the risk of getting gapped behind somebody that's not paying attention, like I am now, and then having to work extra hard to bridge the gap. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to waste any energy, so I put a little dig here to get back up toward the front, and just in case there was a separation. As usually happens, everybody comes back, so I could have probably just stayed on the end and let someone else tow us back, but you never know. So that's what I did. So not much happened. We kind of cruised in a pack over to Jarvis Island and through that part and getting ready for the climb. Here's the base of the climb. Again, everybody kind of stuck together as a couple of people dropped off. As we get going here, a couple of people go off the front. I was a little worried they were going to take off, but we sort of reeled them back in. I was saving my feather until this part, and everybody else was too, which is the steepest part of this climb, and I wasn't really pushing it. Just wanted to kind of get up with the group and make sure I stayed with these guys. The worst thing that can happen is to be off out of the pack when they go over the top and start accelerating down the other side and you lose the draft. So I definitely wanted to be in the pack, in the lead pack, over the top of this little crest. And this is kind of a false descent at the top of Jarvis. It kicks up again at the end. So again, I just wanted to be with the pack here. So we cruise along at the top and then to the real top and then over the top. You can see that we've already sort of separated into kind of the top 10, 11, and the rest of the people are starting to drop back. Some people will come back, some people won't, but it's starting to ever so slowly starting to thin out. Here we get the second power up, get another feather for the next climb, and then long cruise along the coast up to I think it's the Dirty Suppressa or something like that is the name of the gravel climb that's coming up. Basically, I just hung in the pack, stayed out of the wind, tried to do no work, and let everybody else go. There's a little bit of a split or a little bit of a stretch out of the pack here, and it looked like maybe the front guy was going to try to get away, so I definitely had to stay focused and stay up and push a little harder to get back in the group. Again, everybody kind of comes back together, so I probably could have waited and probably could have had somebody else tow me up, but you never know, so always got to stay alert. So here was the start of the second major climb, and you can see a lot of people firing feathers here at the bottom. It probably made sense because it's the steepest part, but I wanted to hold on to my feather for as long as possible. But at this corner, it looked like it was getting steep, and there's some guys getting away, so I figured I better fire it and close that gap down. And indeed, these four people up here, me and these other three guys, did seem to be separating from the rest of the pack, so definitely wanted to hang with these guys, especially in this traverse across the top. And this guy, Van Winter, did a great job, huge pull. I did, no work going across here. I let everybody else do the pulling, and I just sat on the back. I felt bad about doing it, but that's racing. So, yeah, the other guys, I think we got like about 8 or 9 seconds on them. They eventually come back. So it was a good catch for them, mainly probably because nobody else was working in this line except Van Winter and this one other guy, Bayless. I did actually kind of feel guilty about sitting in so much, so as it gets steeper on the downhill here, I decided to do a little bit of work. Obviously, it's not that much work since it's downhill, but I sort of did a token little effort, and then as soon as it got flat, I sat up and let everybody else pull. And you can see those guys did catch us at the end there and stayed with us through Titan's Grove on this part. Not much of a climb, but still, if you're not careful, you can get separated, somebody leave a gap, and you can lose the front pack. So definitely wanted to stay hitched. Not much really happened on this road along the coast. Pack pretty much stayed together. There's some rollers here and some surges in the pack, but in general, this group just kind of stayed together and essentially rolled along the coast, waiting to get to the final climb. So here we are at the bottom of the climb, getting ready to start the grade, and I think people weren't quite sure what the feather situation was. Not everybody knew that you got a feather on every arch. I had a feather right now, and I knew I'd get one at this arch, so I fired it right before the arch. So fired that one and picked up the next one. And I'm not sure everybody knew what was going on. They were probably thinking, why is this guy firing his only feather at the bottom of this hill? So I don't know what people knew. I think eventually everybody sort of caught on once they saw that they got a feather on every, or that I was getting a feather on every arch. So that's what happened basically. And I wasn't really sure whether I should, how I should use them. Should I fire them back to back? This guy Bayless started putting the hammer down, and I wasn't sure if I should try and follow him. I didn't, this is a long climb. I didn't want to blow up. So, I basically decided to fire them, hold them as long as I could, and fire them in front of every arch and see what happened. And so begins this cat and mouse. Basically, Bayless essentially rides away from us, so we don't really, nobody could hold him. This guy in the green came up and rode with us a little bit, but essentially it was between me and this Pereira guy, back and forth. He would surge ahead a little bit here. I caught up with him. I didn't want to push too hard because, again, long way to go, and it looked like he really wasn't able to sustain an attack, so we basically rode like this for essentially the rest of the way. He was right on my wheel. He wasn't really gaining any drafting from me at these speeds, so I wasn't really helping him much. He would sort of surge and look like he was going to try to attack, but he never came around me, and I wasn't really ready to try to attack him either, because, again, don't know what he's got. It seemed like he was trying to just pace himself and maybe hit me at the end, but as we go along here, there's a point here where he starts to drop back. Now, he's always on me from like a meter or 2 or 3 back behind me. At some point here, I see him drop back, and he starts to go to 4 meters, 5 meters, comes back, gets back up to me, but then drops back, and right there I see him drop, and I put the hammer down. I fire my feathers, I fire them back to back and push it, and you can see I'm starting to stretch out the lead, and all of a sudden he's 15 seconds back, and I pretty much knew I had the second at this point. I can't catch up to Bayless. He's almost a minute ahead, but looked like I pretty much had it in the bag. And as I get to the top, there's the finish line, and I've got 29 seconds on third place. So really happy with this ride. Again, I kind of expected to be able to do well here, but it's always nice to have it work out and get a podium spot. They're rare, and then your racing score goes up, and then you're boosted to the next level, and you're at the bottom of the range, and you can't win anything. So when it happens, it's really great. Thanks for watching. Hope this was kind of a fun experiment for me. I'll get better audio. I know the audio is not that great here, and I think of what I'm going to do is record while I'm riding as opposed to a voiceover after the fact, but we'll see. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to the next one.